Welcome to Friday Heavy, your guide to aggressive, abrasive, loud music brought to you by the couple of guys behind Toondig. I'm Cliff.
And I'm the other guy in the couple, Kyle. Hi. Three basic things we try to cover quickly and get you back into your day, your head banging, your fire starting, whatever it is that you're doing while we catch you. Thanks for tuning in. Each episode we cover first one brand new release in the world of heavy and loud music and why we think it'll be worth a spin. Got one we're really excited about today. Secondly, one playlist we've curated to help you explore a heavy subgenre or artist or scene, often related to the new release in some way. Sort of the case today, an interesting one. And then third, and most importantly by far, one organization tackling a heavy issue by doing critical, culture impacting work in their community. Because punk rock is a force for good in the world, despite what cops and teachers may say. So let's get into it. Cliff, what do we got?
Well, I'm excited. Kyle, it's interesting you identified as the other guy, though, because if anyone could see us physically in person, I would really clearly be the other guy. And I'm totally okay with that. Because when I hug you, my head fits inside the shape of your armpit in a way that comforts me deeply.
I am quite tall.
I love it. This week, we are making the occasional exception of covering a release that dropped 1 week prior to this episode dropping itself.
Still very much counts as hot off the presses.
100%.
I would say. Not burn your hands hot, but still hot.
I like to call out when we've definitely gotten a chance to spin the actual album before deciding proactively to talk about it. So anytime that happens, you can know that we are even more convinced that we should talk about it now that it's out. And this week, that is from Manchester doom punk quartet Witch Fever.
You know I hate genre labels, but doom punk, is there a cooler term in music? Like instant spin.
Yep. You get a cool genre if you name it and say that you are that genre.
That's right.
Yeah. Like Funeral Doom and then whatever it was that Primitive Man called themselves. You get all those. Those are free. Witch Fever released their latest full-length Congregation on Music for Nations, which as a label is pretty interesting, is a British and previously indie label that Sony created a zombie form of and reused the same name to relaunch later. And now there's a bunch of, some cool bands, some if bands, but, folks like Opeth are on this label at this point, so pretty big.
Cradle of Filth is on this
label?
Yeah,
Amon Amarth, all kinds of stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah. Which it seats this band even more interestingly to me.
I'm happy for them to be on it. One of those times where, all right, if you're going to kind of hockey stick towards becoming popular and getting the attention you deserve, okay, good enough. And so while the release we covered last week, for instance, Devotional, was spiritual while being somewhat a religious, this one is not that.
Clap, clap, clap.
You will not be confused about what Congregation is about at any point, and that is to Witch Fever's credit. So just pulling a line from an interview on a blog called The Line of Best Fit, which is an odd way to try to phrase an audio, but I wanted to bring out this quote. I think it helps illuminate a little bit more of what this band is doing, which is sick. Quote, Congregation doesn't play like a political screed or a rad femme manifesto. These themes are certainly present, loud and proud on the record, readily available if one is willing to listen attentively and do the work. But from the vocalist Amy Walpole's perspective, her heavy use of biblical symbolism, allegory, and metaphor is wholly intentional. Quote from Amy, I did a master's degree in Gothic literature. My love of fiction and horror fiction plays such a strong part in the way that I write. And
I saw that quote and immediately texted it to my wife. I was like, you would be best friends with this person. You should go to grad school wherever she got a master's in Gothic lit.
I also thought of her because she is a master's degree in Gothic literature, and that's awesome.
Oh, too bad I'm going to die first, or else I'd write that in her eulogy.
We'll see what happens. I'll be there. Musically, Witch Fever kind of schools you on multiple fronts, too, as a band. There's this frantic punk energy that really happily cohabitates with grunge choruses and interludes. And once again, you can even go back, I think, to the first Friday Heavy episode we ever did. This is a theme in heavy music where grunge comes back, and some bands can do it without pretense, and it just works when it clicks into.
They're one of the bands that wears their love of Nirvana on their sleeve and then doesn't let it bleed into the music in a shitty way.
The only appropriate way to like Nirvana. Yes, there.
It's so hard to like Nirvana and reflect it in your music in like a not cliche, not boneheaded way, but
exactly.
They pull out some of the best stuff for sure.
Yep. Awesome. So to that end, and to highlight a couple of those points, let's go ahead and spin 2 of the singles. So first one up is the title track, Congregation, and you'll get a pretty immediate taste of the grunge influence and the slight Nirvana worship that we were talking about that works so well in this context. So then secondly, let's get a bit of context loaded up to Beauty and Grace, which is the next track we'll play, and another single that released before the album dropped.
This was the one that got me. I loved this song from the jump. It's great.
This is probably the highlight to get you in there, but then I loved also how intentional they were in talking about this in some of the interviews. So, quote from the same vocalist, Amy Walpole, from before, quote, "As a woman, I'm not always this crazy, bossy, boisterous, angry person, but I'm not totally submissive either. I like being pretty. I like making myself feel pretty. I enjoy those parts of my femininity. And so it's not about totally eradicating those parts. It's about finding power in the things that are opposite to them, which are typically considered masculine." So this track, Beauty and Grace, is an expression of anger at having to repress certain things that you feel in order to be more feminine, protesting against them while also embracing femininity, having both and enjoying both. Here's the track.
The mark of the beast, the hair on your arms. You bury your sin when push comes to shove. Carry my weight, I put that shit on. Follow mistakes, wanna tear that shit off. Split for the sake of it. Crunch just to make it fit. Split for the sake of it. Crunch just to make it fit. Watch the moon rise. She opens your thighs.
So there's another quote from Kerrang interview. Having now just heard Beauty and Grace, you'll appreciate in the new light. Amy said, "Just because my body is small doesn't mean that I'm small. I want to be the opposite. I want to be fucking huge." And notes that she laughs. "I want to take up as much space as I can." And you can hear that sonically in the energy of the vocal delivery. We hope that you'll check out Congregation, which is out now on Music for Nations. Please go listen to it however you want. And then, as always, send this band your money through shows, through merch, or through a direct donation. And I personally can't wait to check out this band live when they roll through town.
Yep.
Looking forward to it.
And we'll just say this part directly to you. We mentioned that they are on basically a subsidiary of Sony at this point. Yeah, buy their music. It goes to the band. Just stream this shit wherever you want and then go send the band your money. The label doesn't need any more of it, right? Help out these bands who are figuring out how to get their music to larger and larger audiences. And now's a really great time to support Witch Fever. They just came off some supporting dates with like My Chemical Romance, which we've brought up before on this podcast, not because we're such huge fans necessarily, but because they do represent kind of a space where great bands like Turnstile or Soul Glow or something kind of get plugged into the right show, and it helps them blow up in a way that we really want.
There's definitely a coronation moment happening, like you started to point out a pattern between the bands from when we were coming up and like a new Gen Z cusp of Gen Alpha sort of thing, which is really exciting. And so Witch Fever is part of that. The first thing that I ever read about them said, like, it directly invoked Rage Against the Machine too. It was like Rage Against the Machine canceled on whatever XYZ bill, but we caught Witch Fever in an early slot and sort of satiated that same energy. So like the like righteous anger, the sort of funkiness, the willingness to be yourself, all that's in there, and it's really cool. So it's cool to see them being part of this like cusp of a moment thing we're experiencing.
Yeah, totally. I love it. So once again, Kyle, you made a playlist based on whatever your brain kind of danced around when we thought about this release. And I feel like this is going to make me want to put on Warpaint.
I think dance around is sort of the operative phrase. And if you put on any paint, it's probably the Dayglow paint for a rave with black lights. The thought of you personally doing that is hysterical to me.
My skin already glows in the dark, man. We're good.
Right. I am so pale. This is one of the more eclectic, maybe the most eclectic one that we've done so far. And I think a lot of it is drawn from influences that they've cited. They're a very eclectic group. There's a run in here of Idols with Jenny Beth from Savages into PJ Harvey, into Bikini Kill, into like Nova Twins and a bunch of bands that are their peers that they've said they think are really cool. You know, at the risk of over contextualizing, I think it's all about high energy. It's all about feeling really good and powerful and free in your skin. Like this is just a playlist about like losing yourself and the feeling of freedom and living deliciously. And it's got really rad energy. There's a lot more synth in this playlist than there probably ever will be in any other Friday Heavy playlist. But it's good. It's a vibe. If you don't want 2 Chainz or R&B or whatever for your going out Saturday night, it's a good way to get your energy up to like go be out in the world and take up space in it. So put yourself in that headspace when you press play on this one.
Absolutely love it. This slots into that same place where I would, before meeting up or going to do something where I needed probably more energy than I would naturally exude, I would try out a lot of bands. Like Coat Hangers is one of my kind of go-tos of just like, I don't actually need to be pumped up the way that heavy music pumps me up. I need someone to be kind of screaming at me and being excited about being alive to ramp me up into like, oh yeah, oh no, I can take up this space. I was invited. I'm going somewhere, you know? So I'm into it.
This exists on a continuum that I'd never thought of before between Coat Hangers and Code Orange, somewhere on that spectrum. This is the only playlist I think we've put Portishead on, which I'm psyched about. And then I need to say the appropriate number of times. Pigs times 7.
Nailed it.
Is a band that I really love that has taken them out on tour, and one of the dudes in that band produced this record, Congregation, and so they fall right in the middle of the playlist as well. For a comparison, the Harriet playlist that we made, that I think we just called Void.
Yep.
Like I think if you take 2 kids going to the goth prom in the Abyss, the Harriet playlist is for the kid who's going to stand on the wall and not talk to anybody, and then this playlist is for the goth kid that's going to be right in the middle of the dance floor.
Hell yeah. Both
goth kids we love and hold in our hearts.
The kid who loves My Bloody Valentine and the kid who says, why though? They get along so well. I love that, man. Thank you for this playlist, Kyle. You continue to bless us. Just as a reminder, we have all these playlists on our Spotify account under Toondig and then also on our YouTube channel. You can always check them out there. Last but never, ever, ever least, we always cover an organization who is doing something critically important for their community. And so this week, we turn our attention to the housing market. So as that continues to consolidate, Kyle just slipped me a non-audio cheesy smile and double thumbs up, and that really made me feel good. So as that housing market continues to kind of consolidate ownership towards a handful of large corporations, you can go easily read about that right now. Most regular folks are ending up caught in a horrendous cycle of unaffordable rent right now at the same time that home ownership is itself pretty cost prohibitive. And another thing we won't cover, but that you can look into, the Fed, our own government, is specifically and verbally trying to keep it that way. Listen to what they say. They say that they need more poor people unemployed in order to fix the economy, and that's going to lead to them not being able to afford places to live. That's what they're saying. Anywho, systemic oppression in ways like this tends to stack up in the lower classes as well, because they become these horrendous overlapping Venn diagram circles of hell that concentrate on people who really need the most help. And that's what's happening with rent. Unfortunately, this puts landlords at a distinct advantage. And what we do know throughout history is that when landlords are given enough rope, they will simply tie it around their tenant's neck and kick families out on the street because they can't afford the next rent hike that the landlord has unilaterally decided to oppress people with. That doesn't mean all landlords are bad. It just means the whole concept of it is pretty bad, period. So one way that we want to turn this towards an organization that we can then support to do something about it. Dan Immergluck is a professor and an author of a recent book released called Red Hot City: Housing, Race, and Exclusion in 21st Century Atlanta. And he got us thinking towards Housing Justice League, which we want to talk about today, because he recently tweeted that, quote, "Tenant organizing is so key in metros and states where tenant protections are so weak and eviction rates are so high. Groups like the Housing Justice League need to be supported and expanded to become powerful political forces at city and state levels. Politicians need to fear them more than they fear the Georgia Apartment Association, for instance." So we want to just draft off of the confidence and the motivation coming from an expert telling us what kind of needs to happen in order to protect especially tenants in a city and specifically really a state of Georgia where landlords are increasingly and commonly favored in law. So we want to talk about the Housing Justice League. They're a grassroots organization that works to preserve affordable housing, prevent gentrification, and support tenant organizing in Atlanta specifically. And they formed organically via a handful of Atlanta residents wanting to channel the energy of the Occupy movement towards those facing foreclosure and eviction. And this was, back when the Occupy movement was spinning up. And then this group became a nonprofit in 2014. Since then, they've expanded their purview and played a really important role in fighting multiple displacement campaigns and organizing tenant associations. This is one of those crews, like we always like to remind people about. There are always organizations doing this stuff in your community, and you just don't know about it. As I went back and looked at things I remembered, these displacement campaigns, like I know what they are, right? It's the Beltline, it's the Gulch, it's all these we really want to give tax breaks to really rich people, but we want to pretend that it's going to result in affordable housing for people. Folks like the Housing Justice League see through that bullshit and try to help people stay in their homes. And so they offer a lot of resources, including a tenant power hotline to help you defend your home and organize with your community, which is awesome. They really do a lot with a little. And so even in a state like Georgia, where we mentioned that, that heavily favors landlord and generally speaking capitalists.
Number one state to do business, a million years running.
Hollywood agrees all the time. So, but tenants still...
At 30% off, I would agree too.
Even in situations like this, though, you as a tenant, you have rights. You shouldn't have to live in squalor. You shouldn't have to live on the street. You shouldn't have to choose between paying rent and paying for food for your children or paying for health care for your mom. It shouldn't be this way. The people don't want it to be that way, and organizations like this are some of our only means for being able to turn things in that direction.
So if you agree with that, and we hope that you do, we encourage you to learn more about Housing Justice League at housingjustice.league.org and consider making a donation and or becoming a member. Let's do like Dan Immergluck suggested, and please do go copy yourself a copy of Red Hot City. Let's help groups like Housing Justice League become powerful political forces at the city and the state level, because without organizations like them, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better.
Yep. And one more screw to twist in, even if you're a homeowner or not a tenant currently, you can and might be in the future, and people you love are. This matters whether you are currently experiencing the oppression of it or not.
Yeah. Housing is a human right, baby.
Hell yeah. This has been Friday Heavy. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Go to tunedig.com or follow us on Instagram and Twitter for links to the new release, the playlist, and the organization that we talked about today.